Hit like and subscribe. You're watching the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. Hit like and subscribe. You're watching the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. Hit like and subscribe. You're watching the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. Hit like and subscribe. You're watching the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. Hit like and subscribe. You're watching the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel.
Peace, family. It's your brother, Marc Lamont Hill. Welcome to Night School. Every night here on the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel, we hold Night School, where we break down the most controversial subjects, the most interesting conversation, the most engaged debates going on in the world today. And tonight is no different. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about, and we're going to talk about it. I want to start by acknowledging the many people here who have joined the channel in the last 3 weeks. The month of March has been a good month for memberships. People have joined. People have said, you know what? The doors of the church have been open, and I love what's happening in Night School, and I want to be a part of it. So they have become members of the channel. So I want y'all to think about doing that. If you don't feel like you're ready or can for whatever reason, that's cool too. But just think about it. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. In the meantime, that don't cost you a thing. Forgive me for sounding so stuffy. I've been struggling between allergies and a slight cold. I have been struggling. Your boy's been struggling, but I got a lot better in the last day or so. So I'm feeling pretty good. Another thing, shout out to everybody who has sent suggestions, for potential guests and potential topics. We are going to get into so many things in the next 2 weeks based on what you've asked for. Some of you have sent names. I reached out to them. Some of you have sent direct links to people, emails and tags and such. And I've done everything I could to follow up, or I will in the next 24 hours. We're talking about a real responsive global classroom now. It used to be I came in, I tried to do my best to come up with the stuff that I thought mattered. I tried. And I think I did a decent job. But I can't do as good a job as you all can do talking about the things that you care about and the things that you know about. And so I'm grateful. Anyway, let's get to it. First, we came out the gate swinging today. Carmen Benoit has gifted 1 membership. Anybody out there that wants to match that energy, please do so. Carmen Benoit sent out a membership to somebody. Hope one of y'all grab that thing up. But who wants to match that energy? If we could get 10 people to match that energy and gift the membership, that would be amazing. Or if you want to join and become a member yourself, that would be so dope. I appreciate you. Look, Bovine say, rest up, Mark. We love you, even though I missed so many classes. Look, I'm trying to take care of myself, but also make sure that I stay committed and loyal to this project, which is an important one. So let's do it. Also, I'm going to take some Q&A tonight. If you got questions, I got answers for you. Drop those questions and answers in the comment well, especially super chats. That makes everything a lot easier. Big Greasy Ebony just gifted membership. Thank you so much. Rosability just gifted a membership. Thank you so much. We're gonna get 10 of them things. Who wants to match that energy? Bring It to Green, you said Mark's interview with Mohammed Al-Kurd left me wanting more. Would love to see him here. Let's get to it. I'll call Mohammed. We'll do the interview. And y'all can ask him the questions that y'all don't think I asked, or that you wanted to hear a deeper response to. Whatever it is, we got you. I'm hearing names coming in of people y'all want me to talk to. Queen Jean, I got you. We'll reach out. I got to do some homework, but we'll reach out. Don't do like Marvin Sapp and try to lock people in the chat. I don't even know what that means. I don't know what that means. I don't get the reference. But shout out to Marvin Sapp, who is my fraternity brother and one of the gifted artists of his generation, the most gifted artists of his generation. Zayn Khan said, interested in your take on the Tufts graduate being picked up by ICE. We'll get to that. I'm happy to do that. Don't worry, Tigrinya. I didn't take or bring your Tigrinya. I ain't take that as a criticism, fam. I took it as you wanted even more because it's such a dope person. I'm not sensitive, yo. I'm not thin-skinned, so don't worry about none of that. We out here to make positive change and to teach, not to catch feelings over small things, yo. It's all love, and I appreciate the insight. I'm glad you told me that, because after interviewing Mohammed Al-Kurd in person for an hour and interviewing him on Al Jazeera for I think 30 minutes or so that made it to air, I would not have thought that y'all would have wanted me to interview him again. I thought you would have said, "Oh, okay, Mark, we get it. He's amazing, but like interview a different person." But I will interview Mohammed Al-Kurd every week if I could, because he's so insightful, he's so brilliant, he's so compelling. Let's talk about it. But before we do that, let me also acknowledge that tonight, for those that don't know, is a very important night for Muslims. You may not know that, last month, before the month of Ramadan, is the month of Sha'ban. And at the middle of the month, what we call Nisfu min Sha'ban, it is a very powerful spiritual moment. It's a moment of reconciliation. It's a moment where we reflect on forgiveness. It's a moment, how do I describe Nisfu min Sha'ban? I don't even know how to say it, other than it's the way I was taught. And this goes back to the old Ansar days. We were taught that Nisfu min Sha'ban, which was last month, to be clear, was an opportunity to dhikr, to remember. I hear Jamila saying penance for sure, but also forgiveness. Innahu kana tawwaban, right? Surely he is the acceptor of repentance. It's about forgiveness. It's about mercy, rahmah. And that's one of the things people don't know. People talk about Ramadan, they talk about Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, but they don't necessarily talk about Nisfu min Sha'ban. And similarly, this month, tonight, is Laylatul Qadr. Laylat al-Qadr. Layla is Arabic for night. Layla. If you name somebody Layla, you're referring to the night. Al-Qadr in Arabic means a few things, but in this case, it means power. It could also mean possibility. It could mean ability. There's other words. Qawa is the da'a. There are other words that are synonymous with these words, but Qadr means power in this context. And the reason why it's called Laylat al-Qadr, which comes during Ramadan, and it was one of the odd-numbered nights in the last 10 days of Shahr Ramadan. It was the night when the Quran was first revealed. It was the night when the Quran was first revealed. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born in the year 570, died in the year 632, but in the year 610, and then we'll get to the stories of the day, but we're a classroom here, and so many of you are in community with Muslims or want to understand Islam. So this is an opportunity to learn something. Mo said, what's Arabic for day then? There's two words. There's Yom literally means a day. But I think you mean Nahr in the sense of like the daytime, like Nahr. Or Sabah, if you mean like the morning. But anyway. And so the night of power is the night in the year 610 when Quran al-Karim was revealed, or at least the first 7 ayat were revealed to the Prophet Muhammad. There's some, what's the word? I don't want to say doubt. There's some uncertainty about the specific historical date of Laylatul Qadr. And you can read the hadith and other things to get into, I don't want to get into the weeds of this. But effectively, Prophet Muhammad said he doesn't remember. He don't remember. That's I mean, it's a little more complicated than that, but for all intents and purposes, that's the point. But he was then revealed the first 7 ayat of the Quran, which was not what stands now as the opening chapter or surah of the Quran. Y'all with me? Let me say it a different way. If you open up a Quran now, you will see Surah Al-Fatiha, right? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, maliki yawmiddin, iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim, sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim ghayril maghdubi alayhim wala ad-dallin, right? But the Quran was not revealed in the order that it's in now. The first revelation of Quran was Surah Al-Alaq, right? This is the story of the revelation of Quran. I often talk about literacy and the relationship between sort of literacy and Islamic practice and even Islamic revelation. And it's an interesting idea because the miracle, the mu'ajizah of the Quran, or of even of the prophethood of Muhammad ibn Abdullah, is based on the miracle of literacy, right? He didn't walk on water. He didn't live in the belly of a fish like Noah. He didn't, part a Red Sea like Musa. He didn't, make a full meal out of 5 barley loaves, 2 fishes and 5 barley loaves like Isa, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The idea was that Muhammad was illiterate, that he was what they called back then in the Quraysh dialect ummi, that he was not literate. And I'm not sure. I'm trying to see here. Yes, Surah Al-Fatiha. I don't want to debate y'all on this. Surah Al-Fatiha is the first surah of the Quran. I'm not disputing that. But Surah Al-Fatiha was not the first surah revealed to the Prophet Muhammad. That's not really a disputable. I won't say it's not a disputable position, but it's a I'm a little fascinated. I'm a little fascinated by that argument, and I'm not sure why. But sort of the Nasr was the I mean the entire story of the Prophet receiving Quran and receiving ayat um, from the Creator is that he was told to read. He was commanded to read. Iqra. Iqra. And he said, Ma'ana baqariyan, or excuse me, he said, Ma'ana baqariyan, right? I'm not a reader. Ma'ana baqariyan, I'm not a reader, because he was ummi. He was either firmly illiterate or at least unlettered. The word ummi in that sense meant a kind of lack of knowledge that would be tied to the kind of knowledge that a mother would teach you. There's a patriarchal underpinning to this in a certain way. That's why I was hesitating, not because I didn't know, but because I was trying to get somewhere else. But it can mean unlettered, it can mean illiterate, it can mean lots of things. Again, there are debates about that. We can talk about that. But the point is, the pressure was placed on him by the angel Gabriel, or Jibrail, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And he said, Iqra. He said, he said, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. خلق الإنسان من علق. This is Surah Al-Alaq. This is Surah Al-Alaq. Go read Surah Al-Alaq, right? اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم, right? Those are the first five. We'll pause there. I don't want to get any deeper in this, but the idea here is that this was Laylatul Qadr. This was the night of power. And so Muslims all around the world tonight, all around the world, are praying. They are engaged in tahajjud prayers. They're reading Quran. They're making dua. They're doing dhikr. They're doing paying alms. They are doing i'tikaf, which is when you stay in the mosque for long periods of time, and all you do is pray, ibadah, right? I know Muslims that do it for 10 days in the masjid, the last 10 days of Ramadan. So this is the practice that Muslims are engaged in all around the world. I know some of y'all don't care. But I hope that some of y'all do. I hope some of you do. And I hope that for those of you who have been, I'm sorry, and just, I didn't give you the translation of it, but Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, read, right? Bismi, in the name of your Lord who created, alladhi khalaq, who created. Khalaq created al-insana min alaq, created a man from an alaq. An alaq is like a blood clot or a piece of coagulated blood. Iqra wa rabbuka al-akram, read that your Lord is the most generous. Al-akram, the most generous, which is why I don't believe you should say Ramadan Kareem, because Allahu Akram, you should say Ramadan Mubarak, but that's a whole other conversation. Alladhi allama biqalam, who taught by the pen. Remember the miracle here, the mu'ajizah. Allam al-insan man lam ya'alam, taught man or humanity what they would have never known, or what they knew not. And the answer is, we said, like, you would never know. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. That's the first thing that was revealed from the Quran. We'll talk about all of that later if you want. I'm glad some of you have found some value in this. For those who haven't, that's that's on y'all. Everything ain't for everybody. Maybe we'll make a clip of it. I didn't even put a headline on this because I didn't expect to talk about it for 18 minutes. I thought we talked about it for like 2. But yes. Iqra, the first word of Islam? That's such an interesting question, Mezia, before we move on. I would say no, right? Because in the Islamic tradition, the Prophet Muhammad is Khatam Anbiya. He is the seal of the seal of the prophets. Look, it's Laylatul Qadr. I'm gonna talk a little bit. We can talk a little bit about it. He's the seal of the prophets, meaning that he's not the first Muslim. Nabi Adam was the first, right? When we were kids, we'd have to recite the names of the prophets. Adam, Nuh, Ibrahim, Ismail, Ishaq, Musa, Isa, Muhammad. And there's this whole song called Nushkur Allah, Nushkuru Allah. Anyway, and we would recite all the prophets, right? Why? Because they were all Muslim. That's from an Islamic perspective. I'm not telling people what to believe, but from an Islamic perspective, all the prophets that preceded the Prophet Muhammad were Muslim. Which makes him, again, the khatam, the seal, right, in Nabiyyin or Al-Anbiya. So by that logic, the Torah was a text for Muslims. The Injil, the Gospel, was a text for Muslims. And while Muslims believe that these texts have been affected, altered, misunderstood, whatever, these texts were also texts. Now, if you were to say from a historical perspective, and you take the religious doctrine out of it, you take the religious ideology out of it, then sure. The first word when the Prophet Muhammad ibn Abdullah was born in 570 and receives the revelation of Quran, the first piece, and we see the kind of the formation of Islam as a movement and as a formalized, codified religious tradition, then sure, the first word that that the Prophet received would be Iqra. So to that extent, it would be yes, but a Muslim, I think, would tell you, excuse me, an Imam would tell you, a Muslim scholar would tell you, forgive me, those revelations don't begin. But yeah, so that's that. That's all I'm gonna say about that. But I'm happy that we were able to talk about Laylatul Qadr a little bit, and I hope everyone who's been fasting, their fast has been easy and merciful and bountiful as we approach the remaining days of Shahr Ramadan. Yes, your sheikh is correct. Ramadan Kareem is something that people now say. I go to hospitals and they be trying to be all liberal and inviting, and they be like, oh, Ramadan Kareem. I'm like, that's not really what you're supposed to say. Ramadan Mubarak is the proper greeting during Ramadan, not Ramadan Kareem. Some people use Ramadan Kareem as a response to Ramadan Mubarak. Again, no. Somebody says Ramadan Mubarak, you could say Khair Mubarak, you could say Ali Barak Fik, you could say Kula. You don't even say Kula. You could say Ramadan Mubarak, but Ramadan Kareem. The reason why you shouldn't say Ramadan Kareem, the reason why you should not say Ramadan Kareem, in theory, or the reason why you shouldn't say, and I'm not here as some religious ideologue, I'm just telling you the argument, is because Kareem is one of the 99 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And it's one of the 99 that to Allah or God belongs the most beautiful names of Al-Asma al-Husna, right? And so all of the names that Muslims have, y'all might care about this. Actually, it's somewhat interesting. I don't a lot of the names that, and then I promise we'll get to the news stories, but many of the names that you hear people have, particularly here in the West, that are Muslim, are typically abbreviated or fractured versions of those name, of the proper name, or they have the full name and you just don't know it. What I mean by that is, in Islam, the 99 most beautiful names belong to God. And so in addition to being Allah, which is the 100th name, Allah is Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Al-Malik, Al-Quddus, As-Salam, Al-Mu'min, Al-Muhaymin, Al-Aziz, Al-Jabbar, Al-Mutakabbir, Al-Khaliq, Al-Bari, Al-Musawwir, Al-Ghaffar, Al-Qahhar, Al-Wahhab, Al-Razzaq, Al-Fatah, and so forth and so on, right? We used to memorize them. And so you get all the way from Ar-Rahman to As-Sabur, right? The patient. And so those names, Muslims aren't supposed to take on those names. Muslims aren't supposed to be Kareem or Rahim or Rahman or any of these things. Muslims are supposed to be the servant of those things. Does that make sense? Let me say it differently. A Muslim shouldn't name himself Rahim. A Muslim can be Abdul Rahim. A Muslim shouldn't be Malik. A Muslim should be Abdul Malik, the servant of the Malik. So Abdul is servant of the, and then the name, which is why it's weird when people just say my name is Abdul, because you can't just be Abdul. Abdul means servant of the. It's an incomplete thought. It's an incomplete sentence. But similarly, it shouldn't be Qudus. It should be Abdul Qudus. It shouldn't be Sabur. It should be Abdul Sabur. And so, because Muslims should be a servant of that, which is why the idea of saying Ramadan Kareem is considered improper, because Kareem belongs to Allah. And so the idea would be, you can't say, so if someone did say Ramadan Kareem to me, I would say Allahu Akram, right? God is more generous. Kareem means generous, so Ramadan generous, Ramadan Kareem, Allahu Akram. But in theory, you shouldn't say that, because it's one of the Isma al-Husna. Yeah. So that is a little, right. It's a little linguistics lesson. If you care about Arabic language or grammar, that is why that happens. And I think one of the things that happened, or we could talk about Nation of Islam another time. There's a whole other conversation. If y'all want to talk about it, drop it as a question. But it's one of the interesting things about the naming practices of the Nation of Islam, and how they, in some ways, diverged. In some ways, they followed those traditions. Very just interesting. It's not a criticism. It's just fascinating. Anyway, all right, y'all. Let's get to it. Let's get to it. We got stories on stories on stories. No, we don't. We got like 3 more stories left. But let's talk about Palestinians protest Hamas leadership. This is interesting. I want to get to this because I don't want y'all to be looking at me sideways when I read this story. For the second day in a row, thousands of Palestinians have flooded the streets of northern Gaza, not just to demand an end to the war with Israel, but allegedly, according to the AP and the Wall Street Journal, to call out Hamas itself. In a rare display of dissent, protesters in Beit Lahia in Gaza City and Jabalia chanted, "Hamas, get out," a direct challenge to the militant group that has ruled Gaza for nearly 2 decades. With 17 months of relentless war, displacement, and devastation, some say that the frustration is just boiling over. Many people say Hamas has failed them, blaming its leadership for prolonging the suffering while Israel continues its deadly assault. One protester put it plainly: "We can't stop Israel from killing us, but we can press Hamas to give concessions." Others say they feel abandoned, not just by Hamas, but by Israel, by the Palestinian Authority, and by the world. And while Hamas has violently crushed past protests, this time its forces have kept a lower profile. We could ask why, but the other question is, will these demonstrations change anything? I'm fascinated by this story. It's been so important for Zionists to tag me in this, for Western media outlets to tag me in this, and to say, "Mark, you gotta talk about this story." Well, look, I think it's interesting to talk about, and I'm not afraid to talk about this, but I think we have to put this story in some context. First of all, Hamas has been in leadership in Gaza for 19 years now, more than 20 years. And it's not unreasonable to say that people deserve democratic participation, that it's not inaccurate to say that Hamas rules without a mandate. It's not inaccurate to say that the Palestinian Authority rules without a mandate, that there just haven't been free elections in Palestine for a long time. But it's important for us to get to the why of it. It's important to get to the why of it. Don't let the mainstream media make this about Palestinians want to get rid of Hamas and it become an excuse to justify or legitimize the genocide that Israel has engaged in for the last year and a half, or the siege that's engaged in for the last 2 decades, or the occupation that it's engaged in for the last 58 years, or the apartheid state that it's created and engaged in for the last 77 years. Let's be honest here. You know, as someone who spent a lot of time in Palestine, when I would talk to Palestinians on the street, many of them would say that they were unhappy with the PA, the Palestinian Authority, who was ruling the West Bank in East Jerusalem, and with Hamas, who was ruling Gaza. Palestinians are complicated, and they don't operate with a single political opinion. Like every people, there's dissenting and differing opinions. So the fact that some people are unhappy with Hamas is reasonable, and it's not surprising. There's no reason to believe that Palestinians are uniformly in support of Hamas. That's never been the case. It was not the case about Hamas, it's not the case about Fatah, it's not the case about Jubha, it's not the case about the Nusra Front, PFLP, Popular Front. It's not the case about any of these groups. What you've seen over the last year and a half is not a uncritical deference to Hamas. What you've seen is the Palestinian people understand that whatever internal disagreements may exist, they are relatively unimportant in relation to the genocidal assault that is taking place in Palestine, on Palestine, by the Israeli government. And so when the Western media and the Zionist Hezbollah attempts to construct a narrative that, oh, you know, Palestine would be fine if they would just make different choices. Palestinians would be fine if, you know, the AIPAC talking point that Hillary Clinton and others echoed, including Donald Trump, there's no difference. Palestinians could have chosen democracy, they chose Hamas. They could have chosen paradise, they chose Hamas. This idea that Palestinians are the authors of their own misery, and therefore they have to make a different choice. That has been the narrative from the West and has been wholly untrue and unreasonable for several reasons. Let's start with the fact that Hamas was democratically elected. Now, does Hamas have a democratic mandate now? No. Do Palestinians deserve a free election to elect whoever they want? Absolutely. But the question is, why have they not been able to do that? Hamas has never had a day of uninterrupted, unencumbered rule. They just haven't. From the moment Hamas was elected, which surprised the United States and other Western powers, the United States has worked to undermine Hamas's leadership. Also, although Israel said that they left in the end of 2005, the beginning of 2006, they did not leave Gaza. They relocated to they relocated from inside of Gaza to the outside of Gaza. They border it. Israel borders Gaza by land, air, sea. They control the aeromagnetic sphere, the population registry. They control what goes in, they control what goes out. They control who goes in, they control who goes out. Why is this relevant? Because all the conversation about Palestinian misery being Hamas's fault for the last 20 years neglects the fact that Israel has waged war on Hamas from day one and has paid considerable energy and devoted considerable resources to making sure that Palestinians don't have a day of self-determination. And that lack of self-determination doesn't just stop at one border. You got Zionists, like New York Yankee 17, says, what about their border with Egypt? I think you may not know this, or you're being dishonest, or you're being sincere. I don't know. You're either pretending to not know, or you really don't know. Either way, Israel does security coordination at the Rafah border too. You kidding me? You think when somebody goes in from Egypt into maybe not Khan Yunis, but Rafah, you think they do that without Israel knowing? There's no sovereignty. The fact that, in practice, the fact that Israel can shut down the power of Gaza tells you Gaza does not have self-determination. Hamas runs Gaza. Then how is Israel able to turn off the power in the water? What are we talking about here? And so the desire, or even the legitimacy, start with the legitimacy of a critique of Hamas is there. Nobody's above criticism. But what Palestinian civil society has done, and what the Palestinian global diaspora has done, has effectively said, we're going to speak with one voice to the extent that we can as we try to stop this genocide from happening. Now, internally, yes, there are people who are frustrated with Hamas. I don't know if these are real protesters or fake protesters. I'm going to assume they're real. And I'm going to assume that they're there because they're genuinely frustrated with Hamas. That's fine. They should be able to protest Hamas. And I hope that Hamas allows them to protest and doesn't undermine democratic practices and democratic actions like free speech, like dissent. I'm with all that. But regardless, let us not pretend. Let us not pretend that whatever disagreement people have with Hamas inside of Gaza, that it amounts to anything of substance in relation to the fundamental problem. The fundamental problem of Gaza is not Hamas. The fundamental problem of Hamas, or the fundamental problem of Gaza is Israel. The fundamental problem of the West Bank isn't the PA, it's Israel. Like, as long as Palestinian land is being occupied or annexed, as long as Palestinians don't have full participation in democratic life throughout the entire region, from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, if they don't have that, then what are we talking about? What are we talking about? So please, y'all, there are going to be some trolls, and there are going to be some sincere people, and there's going to be some jerks, and there's going to be some ideological opponents who are all going to say, what about the people protesting Hamas inside of Gaza? Cool. If you think that those protests of Hamas are legitimate all of a sudden, now you care about Palestinian protests. What about the Great March of Return when they were protesting Israel's occupation and Israel's settler colonial practices? What about all the protests and acts of resistance that Palestinians have engaged in for the last 100 years? What about those? Are any of those legitimate? Or is it just the 12 Palestinians that got mad at Hamas today? What are we talking about? Anyway, it's a story that needs to be covered, but it needs to be covered with care and honesty and integrity. And that's that on that. We're staying international today as we talk about Sudan and give a Sudan war update. After nearly 2 years, my God, 2 years of absolutely devastating, brutal war, Sudan's military has just pulled off a real, I would say, major power move. They've retaken Khartoum's international airport, as well as the last paramilitary stronghold in the capital. If you can see here what I'm about to show you, this is just an image that I think is worth looking at because it speaks to a few things. And that is what it means when you have a military state controlling the region. General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan even touched down at the airport himself, smiling like everything is peaceful, like everything is all over. But we know that's not the case in Sudan, right? Is Sudan actually free? Or is this another chapter in what we've seen as, and I've covered as, not never ending, but certainly ongoing and protracted struggle? The RSF, that's the Rapid Support Forces, still controls parts of Darfur. They control other regions. 14 million people are displaced. Famine is creeping in. Once again, every time it looks like Sudan is going to survive and thrive, or at least overcome famine, we see that coming back and back and back. And frankly, peace is not on the horizon right now. This is a power struggle. 28,000 people are dead. It's amazing that 28,000 people are dead in Sudan, and we're saying nothing about it. And nobody's backing down. So what we're going to do, not tomorrow, but Friday or Monday, is have an expert on Sudan come in here so we can really get into the weeds like we've done in the past, talking about what's going on there. But please, again, don't accept the Western narrative here. Not the Western narrative that this is an ongoing, never-ending struggle of not that other powerful nations don't play a role. Look at the role of Qatar, for example, in this. Just let's be honest here, or not Qatar, Dubai, excuse me. Look at the role of Dubai in this. What are we talking about, right? We're talking about a national civil war of sorts that's being animated by powerful forces outside of the country. When we heard talk of a unity government, when we heard about a joint military civilian government, we were excited, but cautious. It didn't last long. And since then, we continue to see formations of government that simply don't hold. And so the fact that you see Abdel Fattah Burhan in the airport smiling like everything is done, don't mean it's all done. And also, whether it's the RSF or whether it's the Askar, the Jaish, the Sudanese military, at the end of the day, when will the Sudanese people have the option and the opportunity to vote, to exercise democratic practices, and to achieve a real kind of liberation? That's the question that I have. That's the question I'm going to ask all of my Sudanese comrades and experts on the subject, because we need it. We need it. We need it. We need that education. All right, y'all. We got one more story coming up. I want to shout out Your Edits PvP for dropping a super sticker in. I'm telling y'all, I really appreciate it. Rosability, I love you. She said, this is the night school I'm here to support. Thanks for the education. Classmates, throwing a super with your questions for Q&A at the end. Yo, that's right. Do that. Raquel just became a member. Shout out to you for becoming a member of the channel. Isaac MC gifted a 5-member. Yo, Isaac be showing up. Thank you. I am grateful. I am grateful to you. Let's continue to build. Let's continue to talk. But thank y'all for supporting the channel. I'm so grateful. Let's talk about Donald Trump before we go. Because your boy is crazy. Like that ass, as a New Yorker say. Your boy is crazy. We got somebody trolling, not trolling, but somebody causing discord in the comments. Look, girl for action. Hamas abuses their own people. 2019, 2022, 2023. Let Gaza live. Protest. Word. We are, as AR said, I'll never duck no smoke. If you want to have that debate, girl for action, you can come on right now. We can have that conversation. I'm down. So y'all had that conversation. But anyway, let's get to it. Let's talk about President Trump. Donald Trump just took his loyalty to the January 6th rioters, the insurrectionists, I use all the words against them fools, to a whole new level. It's one thing to say they're not bad people. It's another thing to say they're good people. It's another thing to say that they embody America. It's another thing to say they should have been prosecuted. It's another thing to pardon them. All those things are levels of ridiculousness. But now Donald John Trump has decided that he's also maybe going to pay them. That's right. He wants to pay the rioters. In an interview with Newsmax, Donald Trump floated the idea of financial compensation for those prosecuted for storming the Capitol. He claimed that he had already, quote unquote, taken care of them, and that many in the government support the idea. He also defended Ashley Babbitt, calling her an innocent victim, and hinted at reopening the case against the officer who shot her. Now, all of this comes, I was going to play a clip of Donald Trump, but I don't want to hear Donald Trump tonight. This comes after Trump's mass pardon of over 1,500 rioters, including some convicted of assaulting police and carrying weapons. This country says Blue Lives Matter. They love them some police. They root for the police in movies. They wear police bumper stickers. But when Donald Trump sicks his goons on the police, now all of a sudden y'all don't care? What are we talking about? Anyway, here's the real insult. Donald Trump is actively pushing to cut checks for rioters at a moment where Black people, don't even think Black people as a whole, just look in Tulsa. Just look at Black Wall Street. Just as one example. Look at the survivors of that disaster. We're still being denied reparations. But you take Black Wall Street off the table for a second. We're talking about enslavement. We're talking about Jim Crow. We're talking about Black codes. We're talking about systemic racism. We're talking about American apartheid. It's fascinating to me that somebody like Donald Trump, who has poo-pooed the idea of reparations for Black folk, and to be clear, so did Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris kind of danced with it. Ain't none of them been serious about what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is reparations for the Black descendants of slavery, for the African, or for the descendants of African, or the Afro-descendant people here in the United States who are directly connected, or the descendants of people who were enslaved here in the United States. American descendants of slavery. There's lots of names for us, but you get who I'm talking about. That's what we deserve. And Trump has dismissed it out of hand. Biden has dismissed it out of hand. All of them dismissed it out of hand. But suddenly, giving reparations to J6 rioters is no different than the United States. In logic, I'm not saying in scale, is no different and no damn near as absurd as when the United States gave slave masters reparations payments when the enslaved African was liberated. After the Emancipation Proclamation, these plantations can't run themselves. I need help. And they gave them reparations. This is what I'm talking about. Like, this country has money and resources for what it wants to. And unfortunately, for Black folk, that till is always empty. Saying that you want to pay the rioters is one thing. I think it's disgusting. I think it's disturbing. I don't think it's going to pass, but that's one thing. And I think he's just talking out of his ass, too. I don't think he even wants that or cares about that. But when you actively deny the claims of legitimate folk, of legitimately enslaved Africans here in America, or in the United States, or in the Caribbean, I think CARICOM should adjudicate their justice claim. Wherever you are, reparations are deserved if you've been through what that Black folk in America have been through. And yet, my Lord, Donald Trump has no words for us and a whole bunch of words for folk who violate every monument of this so-called democracy. They went after the police. They went after the Congress. They undermined the democracy. They shook the building itself. And the man let y'all off. What else y'all want? Reparations? They called the great Lewis Litt. How dare you? Anyway, I'll leave y'all alone for tonight. Thank y'all for watching. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Tomorrow night, make sure you stay here on Night School because we got Dr. Abdul Wahab Abu Warda, who's a surgeon in Gaza. He'll be coming to us at 11 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to talk about what's going on the ground in Gaza. We'll also be talking about a bunch of domestic stories here, including some pop culture stuff. So much going on. You know what? I do have one more thing I want to say. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. There's some smoke in the comments. I see Girl in Action, Bullet, and them engaging y'all. It sounds like y'all called this person to the ground. All right. Go for action. Send an email. We'll send you the link right now. You can come on in. Where you at though? Mark is scared. I'm on here now, ready to debate. Yeah, send a link. Come on in. We got you. I'll wait 1 minute, 2 minutes for you to respond. Even I'll go to somewhere else. Yeah, I'll be waiting on that email. I'll hold my breath. Girl for action. How do you come into the? Here's what I want you to do. Send. Drop your email in the chat, and I'll send you the link. Ooh, wait. I got another story I want to talk about anyway, but yeah, let's see. You're welcome to come through. Fit check before you go. For me? I'm not sure what you mean. Whatever the questions, I'm happy to answer. Yo, Guy Lee just dropped something in, just supporting the channel. Much success to you, brother. Thank you, Guy. I appreciate you. I appreciate the generous donation. I'm grateful. And I'm glad to be part of this channel. I'm glad to be part of these conversations. Oh, the hoodie. Okay, I'll show y'all the hoodie in 1 second. Waiting for you, fam. Where you at? Where you at? Where they at, though? Girl for action. Where you at, though? Silence. Yeah, people always say they want to smoke today, so it's time to actually have a conversation. I don't see no emails. All you gotta do is drop that email in here. I don't see nothing. You say you still here. You still here, but you ain't dropped nothing. Where you at, though? I'm gonna give you one chance. Drop a link. Drop an email address. Drop something. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, they don't want no smoke, man. They just talking. They just talking. All right, so to answer your question, my top 5, this is my top 5 hoodie. It says Tariq and Hove and L Boogie and 3000 and Nas. That's right. Black Thought is at the top of the list. They're not in any order, but just so you know, if you saw Tariq, you know, you might think I'm talking about Lord Tariq. Or who else is named Tariq? There's a bunch of rappers named Tariq, I'm sure, but I'm talking about Tariq Trotter, Black Thought, Hove. I'm talking about Jay-Z, Sean Carter, L Boogie. Even after all my logic and my theories, Lauryn Hill. Of course, I got 3 stacks up here. Andre 3000. Type the text to this girl I used to see. And of course, Nas. A rap for listeners, blunt heads, fly ladies, and prisoners. I wore this hoodie to Lauryn Hill one day. I should have gave it to her because I was wearing a white one, I think, that day. I can't remember what color it was, but I know Elle loved it. And I should have gave it to her. I don't even know why I didn't. I only said I was nervous. I was just probably not thinking about it so much. But I've worn this hoodie in front of. I interviewed Black Thought in a black version of this, or a red version, I forget. And I met Lauren in another color. Andre, I don't see very often. I saw Andre was in Atlanta like 10 years ago. And Nas, yeah. Yep. Interessante. Anyway, it's a conversation piece. My point in mentioning those names wasn't the name drop, but to say one of my goals was to wear my top 5 hoodie in front of the top 5 to let all 5 of my top 5 know that they in my top 5 by wearing the hoodie in front of them. So I didn't. That was a thing for me. Bring It to Green said, our absent debate guest has one video uploaded about black left-wing anti-Semitism. Can we please watch together? Yo, that might be the move next. Look, Bovine said, I'm so thankful I caught class. Now, I'm so glad you did too. And I'm glad we got to shout you out a little bit too, family. Yeah, exactly, Henry. Everybody got game plans to get punched in the mouth, they say, right? You know, so it's like, oh, I'll talk all that shit. Mark won't debate me. And then when I'll be like, oh, let's debate. Come on in. Go for action. This is your last chance. You said you want to debate. Send a link. You're welcome. You're welcome to do it. Just drop an email. I will email Marc Lamont Hill because I have some questions. And now you got questions. What happened to the debate? What happened to the debate? What happened to the debate? You don't want to debate no more. Now you just want to ask questions. I'm trying to get on with you. Then send. Right, exactly. If you're trying to get on Girl for Action, send the email. Drop the email. Drop the email. Drop the email. Drop the email. Exactly. Yeah, they ain't dropping no email, y'all. I'm gonna leave it alone. If by miracle they drop one, I'll respond. But other than that, I'm going to ignore them at this point because they don't want no smoke. If you want the smoke, drop an email in. You'll be on here in 1 minute. All you gotta do. If you have a social media account, send me that, and I'll DM you. You can do it any way you want. You got Twitter? I'll drop it in. I'll drop the link in your Twitter DM or your IG DM. You tell me. Shit, like they said, you could have made it burner by now. Let me know where you at though. Yeah, y'all good on that disappearing act stuff. Anyway, if you send a link to any of the social media account, I'll drop you the link or drop your email. In the meantime, I want to talk real quick about Kanye West's album review. Let's talk just for a second about Kanye West. For those that don't know, Kanye West released an album last week. It's like a little project. That shouldn't be a surprise because Kanye West has been acting ridiculous for the last month, or at least in the last 2 or 3 weeks. And it seems to me that part of why he's acting so ridiculous is because he had something that he wanted you to buy. So what he did was he went to Apple Music and YouTube and he dropped this album called Bully. You pretty much had to hear the whole thing at once. It wasn't cutting the tracks. He made a video for one of the things. And You know, it's supposed to be 10 tracks, ended up being 9 because of the beef he had with Playboy Cardi and Ty Dolla $ign, whatever. But all that to say, he made an album. And from what I hear, the album doesn't suck. In fact, if I'm going to keep it 100 with y'all, what I hear is the album is great. Like, magazines are like reporting, like, we hate to say this, but it's great. But here's why I'm mentioning it. Most of the people I talk to don't know if the album is great or not because they haven't listened to it. And that makes me proud. That makes me happy. I mean, genuinely happy. Because I thought when Kanye dropped this new thing, everybody was going to run to it and it was going to go right back to normal again. But it hasn't. We've set a new standard. Salute to y'all. I haven't listened to one bar on purpose of that album. I did accidentally hear something for like 10 seconds. I didn't know what it was. But I was like, this beat sound nice, you know, whatever. But I didn't listen to it. And I'm over Kanye rapping anyway in general because that's a whole other conversation. But I normally would listen to the album to review it. I would normally listen to the album to cover it. I would normally listen to the album to be able to be in conversation with the rest of the civilized world about the hot new music coming out. But I had no desire. Once Kanye West started endorsing Nazism, I was done. I mean, like done. When Kanye West said that slavery was a choice, I was done with him. But I always held out hope that he would come around and get right, whatever right looks like, whatever his peace looks like, whatever his stability looks like. I always held out for that, even when he said something that I thought, as Van Lathan said, was really hurtful, right? That slavery was a choice. But then he proceeded to say so many other things, one more outrageous than the other. And recently, I think what made the Nazi stuff and all the Hitler talk similar to what he said a year or two ago is that it now feels like he's desperately grasping for attention. He's desperately reaching at straws. You know, like somebody said, the swastika t-shirt, all these things. I mean, in addition to wanting to stand in solidarity, in active solidarity with my Jewish brothers and sisters by saying, look, I'm not supporting Kanye in any way, form, or fashion. That's a fact, right? I could not be an ally to Jewish brothers and sisters and support Kanye West. I just could not. So full stop. But also, Kanye don't love us in action, not in deed, not in practice, not even in words. I can't support that. Kanye is a monster and a bully and a jerk. The things he said about Jay-Z and Beyonce and their beautiful children, I can't stand with that. Like, what kind of shit am I on if I stand with that because somebody can make a hot song or a great beat? Like, what are we talking about? Stop it. So when I see that most people in my circle don't know the Kanye album, and even the ones that do are a little embarrassed to have it or know it, that makes me feel like we're growing as people. Maybe as a society, we're drawing clear boundaries, but what we're not going to rock with. Now, some of you might say, well, it's easy to do with Kanye, but they ain't do that with Mel Gibson, or they ain't do that with so-and-so. Look, you're not wrong in pointing out that Kanye is not getting treated the way some of these awful white celebrities are get treated. And all true. But I can't do the whataboutism right now. I got to focus on the fact that Kanye is ours. He came out of our community, came out of our traditions, he came out of our lineages. And I feel a duty to him, and I feel a duty to his mother, may she rest in peace. I feel a duty to everyone who loved him to make sure he's cared for well. And if he needs mental health support, we'll encourage it. If he needs, time off the social media outlets, I'll do my best to never mention that he's on there so that he doesn't, feed into it for attention. But I'm not buying Kanye's music. I'm not buying Kanye's sneakers. I'm not buying Kanye's music. I'm not buying Kanye's t-shirts or hoodies. I'm not buying anything from Kanye. I don't want to put money in Kanye's pockets because I will not reward racism. I will not reward anti-Semitism. I will not reward who he is at this moment. Yeah. Anyway, that's it for tonight. I see our nemesis. She ghosted, right? She disappeared. Where'd she go? Were they blocked? Did they disappear? What happened? I don't even see their name on the joint no more. When y'all blocked them? If you did, I ain't tripping. I just don't see them. I'm just confused. I don't understand how these comment sections work. But yeah, she gone. That's what they do. They come, they talk shit, and then they bounce. And when you call them up and put a spotlight, like roaches, when you put that flashlight on them, they scatter. They do whatever they want in the dark, but they scatter in the light. It's our job to keep the light up. Anyway, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're so inclined, hit the join button. Become a monthly channel member for as low as $3.99 a month. It will go a long way toward helping us build what we're trying to do here. If we can have your support, we have predictable resources, foreseeable finances. We can make estimates based on the projected revenue. It would be great to be able to do that. So thank you for everybody who bought a membership or made a donation, but especially people who made the donation. Maddie asked, who also made a donation, and thank you. I'm so grateful for it, Maddie. Can you give an encouraging word of hope for trans folk in this time? Is there a moment in history you could point to? Yes, Maddie. First of all, I would say every moment in history is a site of both great trepidation and optimism and hope. There was no reason to believe that slavery was going to end. It was cotton was a national export. The South built an entire empire on the unpaid labor of enslaved Africans. It was our culture, it was our language, it was our society, it was our social organization, it was all the things. And yet there were people who believed in an abolitionist future that even they might not experience, but they knew it mattered. And they made it happen. I'm old enough to remember being a journalist, and we talk about gay marriage as if it were a thing that would never happen, right? It was a pie in the sky from crazy liberals. And within 10 years, we started to see marriage equality movement to expand and grow. People were getting married all over the country to the person they loved. I remember when legalizing weed seemed like an impossibility. I've just seen too many moments where the smallest of things or the biggest of things has been deemed unachievable, and people have achieved them. Now, I understand your point, Maddie, which is that, yeah, but we're in a different moment. This is a moment where Trump is waging war on trans populations, where the very category of gender that has been nuanced and massaged and complicated over the last couple of decades in particular has been thrown away and replaced with this flat, disgusting, dehumanizing, trans antagonistic gender binary. I get everything you're saying, but I can't help but think about what Martin Luther King said on April 3rd, 1968. Only when it is darkest can you see the stars. So at this moment of extraordinary darkness, I still find hope. I still find joy. I still find possibility. And so I would tell trans folk that as dark as this moment seemed, it always looks like that until it doesn't. We always look like we might lose until we actually win. And so I stand in solidarity with you, and loving solidarity with you, unwavering solidarity with you as you fight for liberation. And as dark as the moment is, look up for those stars. The stars are these new generations of young people who are staying on the right side of history. These stars are progressive legislation that, despite the backdrop, is still better than anything we've ever seen before. The stars are there. Let's follow them. Let's make our way home. All right. And shout out to you, Maddie, and XK sent a beautiful donation. Thank you. I'm grateful. Maddie said Ramadan Kareem, which makes me feel like you weren't listening to me, but I'm just teasing. Aloha Akram, and great Lent to you as well. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. I'm getting tired. I don't even see the person no more. They changed the name or something? Y'all say she back, but I don't see she changed her name. Man, y'all bugging, man. So look, haters gonna hate, trolls gonna troll. We gotta keep doing the work that we're called to do. And that's all I'm gonna do. All right, y'all. Love y'all. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace. Oh, wait, you know what? Before I go. One more little notice. Because they keep asking y'all to get paid memberships, and I get some of y'all don't want to do that. I understand. I respect it. No pressure. I would just say that even if you can't make a monthly commitment to us here at the channel for night school, consider making a payment just for the month, a one-time payment for the month, no strings attached, no pressure, nothing. It can be $1. I swear to God, I promise you, $1 helps. It could be $1 million. That helps a lot more, but we'll take anything in the middle as well. And if you listen to me, the ask that I have is that if everybody watching tonight, if everybody watching right now could donate $10, even if you watch this in the morning, if everybody watching this were to donate $10 for the month, just $10, which y'all spend on a single drink when y'all go out. If you could just drop $10 in through the Cash App, the PayPal, the Venmo, or the Zelle, we'll be able to meet our financial goals for the month and do the important work that we feel we're called to do every single night. Shout out to you, Tisha, for the generous donation. I'm so grateful. I really appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, family. See you tomorrow. Peace.